Good morning. It's so good to be together again. I think is that better? No? The light is green. But I'm glad you're here, and you're looking wonderful from here, let me just say. And those of you who are streaming at home, we're glad that you're here too. Yeah. We have a communication with our secret power. It's always good to have it on our side. Before we begin our service today, we acknowledge that we are gathering upon the homeland of the Western Abenaki people. We express gratitude for their traditional and ongoing stewardship of the lands and waters, and we offer respect to the elders, past and present. I'm Sarah Franklin. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Your worship associate today. On behalf of the entire worship team and those of you watching the live stream, you're welcome here in the sanctuary in this treasured place. Since 1864, for over 155 years, the Unitarian Church of Montpelier has been a sanctuary for those seeking both spiritual sustenance and peace and justice in the world. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, pleased to welcome all into this community. We affirm the worth and dignity of every person and the interdependence we share with all existence. We are glad to have you with us for our time of worship this morning. If you should need to leave the sanctuary for any reason, please know that you can also listen to the service and watch it in the fireplace room downstairs. It's always a pleasure to welcome newcomers to join us for worship. If this is your first or second time here at UCM, We welcome your standing or just giving us a little wave so that we can notice that you're here. Hello. Welcome. We're so glad you came today. We invite you to join us for our coffee hour right after the service, which is downstairs in the vestry. And we also invite you to fill out an information form at the welcome table so that we can get to know you better and contact you if you wish. We would love to have all of you join us for coffee hour, and it is a time of great communication amongst us. Now, we can perhaps join in the welcoming ceremony by taking a few minutes to speak to the people around us in the pews. And it's always exciting to see how much people have to say to each other. And the nice thing is that the communication can continue after the service and at coffee hour, as we've said. But right now, let's take a moment, a deep breath. Make sure our cell phones are turned off. And we have one announcement before. Ansel is here from the board, and she has an important communication for us this morning.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm actually representing the stewardship team right now. So I have two stewardship announcements. You may have noticed that with your order of service, you got this little green invite to our Generosity Celebration Dinner that is happening Friday, February 10th, here at UCM from 6 to 8 p.m. The online announcement said that it was going till 10. It's going till 8, 6 to 8. We're going to have a lot of fun in those 2 hours. We hope you will join us for a free pasta and salad dinner to kick off our annual pledge drive. There will be music, childcare provided, good company and fun, and you all are welcome. There's a link to an RSVP form in the e-news. RSVPs are welcome to get a sense of numbers, but they're not required. And there's also a physical sign-up downstairs at the hospitality table. My second announcement is an invite to participate in a steward's training next Sunday after our service. We'll be looking at some of the common questions about the pledge drive, like what is the pledge drive? How do I pledge? How do I figure out how much to pledge? How does this relate to the budget? And if you want to know the answers to these questions, and you would like to share that information with other members of our community, you're welcome to come to this stewards training. It's going to be about an hour. I'll bring snacks. It should be fun and interesting. So you can talk to me directly or just show up next Sunday. And on behalf of the stewardship team, thank you all so much.
And thank you, Ansel, who wears many hats, as so many of us do. You have your cell phones turned off, I think, right? And we're going to enter more deeply into our worship service this morning with the prelude.
We begin our service today by centering in reverence for the natural world. I know, I understand, I know. We honor the four directions, connecting with the wisdom and the qualities of the East, the South, the West, and the North. Can you go back there? I invite you to stand as you are able and turn to face the East, which is the direction of the back of the sanctuary where you entered. I invite you to take a few easy breaths to acknowledge your arrival here and to become more aware of your body. I invite you to shift your weight forward slightly and then back slightly in space, exploring the feeling of weight on your right foot and then your left. And now returning to center, planting your feet more firmly on the ground beneath you. Facing east, we greet the direction of the rising sun and the qualities of springtime. Lessons of new beginnings abound here. From the east come teachings of curiosity that guide us to clarity, and from clarity to courage. We honor the ancestors and the wisdom of the East. And let us turn 90 degrees to the right to face the direction of south. Here we picture the full moon and welcome the qualities of summer and fire. From the south come lessons of abundance and celebration, gratitude as the highest form of prayer, and joy in the midst of difficulty. We recognize the ancestral teachings and wisdom of the South. And we turn to face the west, facing the front of the sanctuary. This is the direction of the sunset and the qualities of autumn. From the west come lessons of detachment and faith. We learn to let go and to surrender to the unknown. We honor the ancestors and the wisdom of the west. And we turn to face the north. Here you can imagine the dark moon and welcome qualities of deep winter. The north represents the place of rest and nourishment that allows us time and space to heal and to grow. We honor the ancestral teachings and wisdom of the north. May the lessons of the four directions turn within us, holding us in balance as we enter this time of worship. And let us join now in our opening hymn, which is number 1069 in the Teal hymnal, Ancient Mother. Please stay risen in body or spirit. Someone... What the fuck's going on? No.
Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel you laughing. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears.
I'm joined this morning for the lighting of the chalice by the Finney family. Here's Jim, Alana, and Case, who are going to help me with the lighting. Do you like that, or do you like this? Whichever you prefer. We are lighting the chalice with our traditional Unitarian.
That's okay. Can I use this? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Our traditional Unitarian matches from the east and the north. We light this chalice celebrating our collective commitment to lead with truth and compassion. The affirmation we will say together. I believe it's printed in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to the human need, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant.
I'm going to try yet another mic. I think I'll go to the pulpit. Must be something in the... For our Time for All Ages today, I'm going to lead you all in a centering practice that comes from a course that I took a few years ago on somatic, which is embodied practices for racial justice organizers. And it felt in line with the directions that we've been talking about, and I wanted to share it with you all this morning. So I want to invite you all to rise as you are able in your spot. And this is a centering practice, and the purpose of this practice is to be able to take action out of a place where we are focused on what we most care about, and to be able to return to that place quickly. So that's why people practice this and return to this practice again and again, so that they can become familiar with it. And you start by bringing your attention from your thinking self, all those busy thoughts in your mind and your head, to your feeling self. And you get inside your own body and your own skin. You might notice the temperature of the room, the pressure of your feet on the ground, any micro movements your fingers are doing. You might bring a hand or two to the spot right below your belly button. For most people, that's their gravitational core center of gravity. And we'll align ourselves in 4 different directions than the ones we did before. The first is length, which is your vertical direction. So imagine yourself relaxing your body down to and through the ground, and lengthening up your body, the crown of your head up towards the sky at the same time. See if you can feel your full length. And center in your own sense of dignity and with the ability to recognize the dignity of those around you, the worth, the inherent worth and dignity of ourselves and others. And next, we're going to fill out our width and figure out how much space you can take up in your body from side to side. You might choose to reach your arms out side to side if you have room, or you might just feel the space between your shoulders, feel your inside stretching out towards your sides, your hips. A lot in life causes us to shrink down and be small, and this is a moment to feel your full width, that whole side direction. This is our relational and our community space where we think about ourselves and we think about the people around us. We let ourselves out and we let other people in. We feel ourselves and we feel others. The third direction is our depth. We're going to start by becoming aware of what's behind you. You can feel the space in between your shoulder blades. You might notice the feeling of the clothes on the back side of your body, on your back, on the back of your legs. Really feel into your back side. Then you can start imagining coming through from your back towards your front and noticing your internal landscape, your heart, your guts. You can feel into your front side and try and feel as deep as you can from the back of your body to the front of your body. The back side of our body connects us to our past, our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents. The inside of our body is how we're feeling in this moment, in this present time, in this time right now. And what's ahead of us is in front of us, and how our front of our body is orienting us towards the future. So really take a moment to try and expand your depth and feel as deep as you can. And the fourth direction is for your purpose. It's at your center. Remind yourself for this moment what you really care about. What is it that you are committed to? Who and what do you really love? Maybe an image comes to mind. You're centering yourself for the sake of what? What is it that you care about? And bring that idea to that spot right below your belly button, that center, your core. And take a moment to see if you can feel all four directions at the same time. Your length, your width, your depth, and your purpose. And just like we did before, you might wiggle a little bit, lean forwards and backwards and side to side, and see if you can find that center. We'll take one more deep breath together. You may be seated. At this time, I invite you all to join our children's parting song so that our preschoolers, kindergartners will be heading downstairs to the preschool room. We have a nursery downstairs as well. And then our elementary schoolers and any middle schoolers who are interested can join in the children's chapel. Please join in singing as you go.
Generosity is a spiritual practice central to the well-being of our church community. It is a privilege of our free church to support the shared values of the congregation through the giving of our collective resources. Through the UCM Pouch program, we share part of our collection each month with an important church fund or a community organization aligned with our values. This month, Community Pouch recipient is the Unlikely Riders Incorporated, a BIPOC nonprofit organization that helps to link folks with winter here in Vermont. Half our cash offerings will go to our pouch recipient. The other half is in support of our ministry and our mission. If you wish to designate the whole of your check or fund to the Unlikely Riders, you can attach a note to your cash or write it on the line in your check, noting that's what you would prefer. Checks will go to the church unless designated otherwise. You can find the offering pouch at the end of the pews, and please pass them toward the center aisle. Those who are watching us live stream, we hope will go online to donate and take care of that as here in the sanctuary we receive our offerings.
This month, with our theme of finding one, finding one's center, we have been using a Taize chant, Da Pacem Cordium, as our gathering song the past 3 weeks. Taize is an ecumenical Christian monastic community founded in Burgundy, France in 1940, which encourages the spirit of kindness, simplicity, and reconciliation. Taize is probably best known for the simple, repetitive songs which they place at the center of prayer and worship, and which are used worldwide by communities of all faiths. And this is what they say about the power of this sort of singing. And just as a note, I want to let you know that they do use the language of God, and out of respect for them, I won't change it when I quote them, but feel free in your own mind to translate that however you wish. I don't think that they would mind at all. This is from Taize. Using just a few words, these short songs, repeated again and again, express a basic reality of faith, quickly grasped by the mind. As the words are sung over many times, this reality gradually penetrates the whole being. Meditative singing thus becomes a way of listening to God. It allows everyone to take part in a time of prayer together and to remain together in attentive waiting on God. To open the gates of trust in God, nothing can replace the beauty of human voices united in song. This beauty can give us a glimpse of heaven's joy on earth, and an inner life begins to blossom within us. These songs also sustain personal prayer. Through them, little by little, our being finds an inner unity in God. They can continue in the silence of our hearts when we are at work, speaking with others, or resting. In this way, prayer and daily life are united. The songs allow us to keep on praying even when we are unaware of it, in the silence of our hearts. So in this spirit, we will sing Da Pacem Cordium together for a few minutes. The words Da Pacem Cordium translate as give peace to every heart. So we'll sing it twice together, all together, and then we'll break into a round. And this section, so divide yourselves here, will be in 3 parts. We'll go first, And Cecile will give you an indication whenever the first phrase, it's in 3 phrases, begins, just so in case you get a little disoriented. This middle section, again, divide however you would like, will go second, and I will be giving that indication. And then this third section will go third, and Don will be giving that indication. And again, we'll do it twice all together to start. Da Pacem Cordium, da Pacem Cordium, da Pacem, da Pacem Cordium, da Pacem Cordium, da
And we acknowledge the generosity with which your financial gifts have been freely and lovingly offered this morning. We receive them with deep gratitude for the difference that they allow us to make for one another in this community and also in our broader community. Thank you. And continuing in the spirit of prayer, we recognize all that we hold on our hearts this morning. recognizing the joys and gratitude, the concerns and sorrow that you might be bringing with you into this time of worship. All of those that we feel personally and intimately, those joys and sorrows that we feel with our empathy and our compassion extended outwards. Let us hold in our heart that our country has been rocked once again by police violence on Black bodies, and a mother once again grieves the loss of a child. Let us hold with care all those in our community who feel the pain of emotional and mental health struggle, who struggle with addiction. Let us hold with love all of us who feel lost and disoriented, uncertain or anxious. Let us take a breath, noticing your center, the place within you of purpose that keeps you grounded and balanced. And we continue in this time of meditation and reflection with these words by Karen Herring, which Sarah will share with us.
Oriented ×3. The first time I saw the phrase oriented ×3, I was working in a hospital as a chaplain. The phrase was used frequently in patient charts, and at first I thought it might be shorthand for an extremely oriented person, like being oriented in the third power or being uber-oriented. I imagined a person who was aware on many levels, sharp, quick, responsive, cognizant of what's going on inside her and around her. A nurse then explained to me that the phrase refers to being oriented to person, place, and time, a determination commonly made by asking patients, "What is your name? Do you know where you are? Do you know what day it is?" And I began to wonder if we might ask similar questions to determine if a person is spiritually oriented. What would it mean to be spiritually oriented? What questions might we ask to determine that? What is your name? Do you know who you are? Do you know whose you are? Do you know where you are? What is your place in the world, in your life, in your relationships? What day is it today? What time is it in your life? What is it time for? What are you living for today? Tomorrow? Yesterday? These are not unrelated to other questions I ask all the time in hospital rooms, in the pulpit on Sunday, in long nights when I'm alone. What do I believe? Where do I belong? What does it all mean? Certainly, I know that the questions are easier than the answers, but I also know this. We all have spiritual compasses inside us, that help us to arrive at our own answers. Sometimes We can read our compasses more easily than others, but we all have something that spins toward north, an inner tug toward the holy. And in those times when our compass is impossible to find or to read, or when it points in a direction we don't want to go, we can turn to one another or to maps that help get us oriented, or to constellations that guide us to where we're headed. Perhaps this is what it means to be spiritually oriented, oriented to self, to others, and oriented to the holy. Perhaps this is what we're doing here together, reading our compasses, finding our way in a universe of shining stars, and making new maps to help one another.
Let us share in a few moments of quiet meditation together. My partner and I generally agree that I have the better sense of direction. When preparing for a road trip, I'm usually the one who will map out the route. I pride myself on not needing to use GPS when heading home from familiar places, or even from somewhere I have only been once or twice. I believe greatly in the strength of my inner compass. And I credit the development of this strong sense of direction to having been born and raised in the city of Chicago, with the lake positioned always to the east and streets that pointed directly north and south, east and west. I felt well trained in directional orientation from an early age. Things got more complicated when I moved to Boston as a young adult. I soon learned that the orientation of the paved streets followed no rhyme or reason, having been laid on top of the trodden paths of cows' hooves. In Washington, D.C., the nearly grid-like system of the city streets was more familiar, but that city threw in roundabout after roundabout, and streets pointed northwest and southeast in addition to the traditional cardinal directions. Roman Kuznerek writes about our human senses and makes the case that we have well beyond the commonly accepted 5 outer senses of sight, smell, hearing, touch, and taste. He claims that directional orientation is also one of our senses, an inner sense. This sense, called magnetoreceptivity, is weaker in humans than in other species, but it has been detected. It's tied to the presence of a tiny crystal of magnetite in the ethmoid bone between our eyes and behind the nose. Humans, it seems, can also have a magnetic pull to the earth that helps with spatial and directional orientation. After my partner and I had been dating for a while, and he started to show me around to the places of his childhood, I figured out that we really had just grown up with different ways of orienting ourselves to place. He knew that the way to get to the place where the falcons nest in the cliffs is to pass his childhood home and the Whippy Dip, take a right at the underpass, and then take the trail that sits along the interstate. Or he knew that his dad's house was several miles up from the I-91 exit, past Monty's shop and 2 big turns in the road that follow the bend of the river, and left at the general store. Growing up in a rural environment, he had learned to orient himself to nature's landmarks just as much as, if not more so, to human-made streets and structures. The earth has indeed provided a way for us, humans, to know where we are. We can tune ourselves into the particular way a place smells and sounds and looks. This orientation to the earth provides both a practical, material necessity for survival and also the necessity of emotional health and well-being. There's a short walk that I like to go on in Hubbard Park near our home here in Montpelier. The path has become familiar over the 8+ years that we have now lived here. And of course, there are seasonal changes. In the wintertime, the path is wide and open. Dried out grasses and milkweed line the entrance, and the branches of birch trees and maple trees are bare, allowing sunlight to enter the usually dense forest. By late July, though, one has to look carefully to step onto the wooden bridge and then wade past the lush green wetlands and into the forest. I walked this path recently, just after the Christmas storm that brought 50 to 70 mile-per-hour winds from the east into our valley and up onto the surrounding hills. As I entered the forest, I had to stop and reorient myself. A massive pine tree was now laid flat against the forest floor, its shallow roots blocking the walking trail. Just beyond it, another pine tree lay toppled to the ground. I kept walking, taking in the aftermath of the storm as I climbed the hill. Branches were scattered about. Trees were lopped off at strange heights. On the eastern side, one section of the park was barely recognizable. The strong winds had pushed down several large trees, clearing that section of forest to open up eerily to the sky. To continue on the path, I had to cling to the upturned roots and find my footing on the newly trodden path. I passed the handmade bench where we had sat with our then 4-year-old, his legs swinging beneath him as we gazed down at the steep cliffside. Continuing on, the forest was strangely quiet, that full kind of quiet, after something significant has happened. I then came to the place where I have come many times before to lay the full length of my back body upon the trunk of a tree and feel held. A new tree laid on the ground. The fresh smell of newly exposed fibers and crushed pine needles still hung in the air. In the hushed forest of toppled trees and broken branches, I tried to find my center once again. It felt as if my inner compass was spinning in all directions. So much around us is changing all the time these days. The seasons don't behave the way we're used to, although thank goodness for some recent snowfall. The local ecosystems we inhabit are shifting with the changing climate in ways both imperceptible at times, but then violently apparent the next. We're confronted with violent acts day after day that test our faith in one another. In ballrooms and classrooms, places of work and worship, and otherwise quiet neighborhood streets. Our orientation to the natural world as well as to one another has become clouded and confused. Finding our center has become both more difficult and also more urgent. In his book, A Hidden Wholeness, the Quaker educator and writer, Parker Palmer, reflects on the ways that we are pulled away from ourselves and how it is that we find our way back. He writes, "There was a time when farmers on the Great Plains, at the first sign of a blizzard, would run a rope from the back door of their houses out to the barn. They all knew stories of people who had wandered off and been frozen to death, having lost sight of home in a whiteout while still in their own backyards. Today we live in a blizzard of another sort. It swirls around us as economic injustice, ecological ruin, physical and spiritual violence, and their inevitable outcome, war. It swirls within us as fear and frenzy, greed and deceit, and indifference to the suffering of others. The lost ones come from every walk of life: clergy and corporate executives, politicians and people on the street, celebrities and school children. Some of us fear that we or those we love will become lost in the storm. Some of us are lost at this moment and are trying to find our way home. We are trying to find our way home. We are trying to find our way back to center, back to our own souls. Whether it is out in nature or more metaphorically on the journey of life, feeling lost and disoriented is deeply uncomfortable and often troubling. And it is often in these moments that we are reminded of what is most important. Despite the sadness that I felt walking through the forest that day, I also felt more connected. It became clearer to me how important my own relationship with the earth is, and also how painful I find it that our human action and inaction continues to lead to an escalating climate crisis that threatens the very web of life that I love and depend upon. This pain led me back to love, back to a sense of commitment to not settle for my own complacency or for collective inaction when it comes to fighting for the flourishing of life on this planet. Reorientation has become a necessary spiritual practice in these dizzying times. Individually and collectively, we need to find ways of noticing when we are lost and finding our way back again. Parker Palmer writes, "My own experience of the blizzard, which includes getting lost in it more often than I like to admit, tells me that the soul's order can never be destroyed. It may be obscured by the whiteout. We may forget or deny that its guidance is close at hand, and yet we are still in the soul's backyard, with chance after chance to regain our bearings. Despite how lost we might feel, there is still the chance of regaining our sense of direction. There is something within each of us that can root us back to the wisdom of the ancestors, the wisdom of the earth, and our own inner wisdom. As Karen Herring writes, we all have spiritual compasses inside us that help us to arrive at our own answers. Sometimes we can read our compasses more easily than others, but we all have something that spins towards north, an inner tug toward the holy. Have you felt this inner tug before? I felt it in the woods on that walk earlier this month. I felt it 2 Sundays ago when one of our children sat on this chancel and wondered aloud why there was laughter as she spoke, and I knew I needed to reassure her that the adults in this room were very interested in what she had to say. I felt the inner tug sitting with a group of organizers with the Poor People's Campaign as we contemplated the ending of emergency housing assistance and SNAP benefits and Medicare cutoffs that will be coming in just a couple of months, and what that will mean for poor and low-income families and individuals in our communities. This tug towards north is our inner wisdom guiding us onto the path. Spiritual reorientation starts with this orientation to self. And when this tug is harder to feel within us, because those times happen quite often, we can attune ourselves outwards for reorientation. We can orient towards others. We can notice when and how we are drawn towards goodness and flourishing as it is shown to us in relationship with others. In this way, we grab hold of the rope. We read our compasses and find our way. I experienced a finding our way moment this past Friday morning in a place and at a time I was not expecting to experience such a moment. I had just finished offering a devotional before the House chamber of our legislature, and immediately following the devotional, it was announced that a member of the House was resigning their seat that very day for personal health reasons. This member's resignation letter was read aloud. It poignantly described the members' struggle with the decision, as well as their great appreciation for their time in public service and the chance to serve the people of Vermont. The letter described challenging moments with colleagues, as well as purposeful and gratifying moments. This representative's love and commitment was so palpable in their words that it brought tears to my eyes. And when the letter was finished being read, those present rose to their feet and delivered a standing ovation. Now, I had no knowledge of this member's political views or party or their particular relationships with other members of that chamber. What was undeniable in the moment was the shared appreciation for one another's humanity. I could feel all of us in that room pulled towards something both within us and beyond us, held by an abundance of vulnerability, compassion, and grace. It is not always clear where we are headed. Many of the signs we see indicate that we aren't always headed in the right direction. And yet there is a compass within us, leading us back to our inner selves, to one another, and to the holy. Let us notice the pull within each of us toward the center of our hearts and spirits, the center that leads with integrity and with love, that draws us towards kindness and compassion, and that pulls us closer to the web of life. May we keep on spinning towards north together. So may it be. invite you to rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn. It's number 326 in the gray hymnal, Let All the Beauty We Have Known. As we close our service, we extinguish our chalice and carry with us its flame of truth, the warmth of community, and the spark of hope into the days and the week ahead. As we do so, let us say together our mission statement. We welcome all as we build a loving community to nurture each person's spiritual journey, serve human need, and protect the earth, our home. As we close our service, we honor the wisdom of the directions east, south, west, and north, and the wisdom of our own inner compass that points us on our way. May you continue to follow the inner tug towards the sacred as you journey forward from here. And we conclude our service with the postlude.